Good morning, Sangha, on this beautiful Sunday morning. Looks like we might have a few people that are off on Easter adventures, but we are going to start with the 3 refuges, and that's up on the chat. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And now we turn to the Heart Sutra. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but Prajna Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then, the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna paramita, gate, gate, para gate, para samgate bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Well, good morning again, Sangha. Today we're going to continue our discussion of the Hsin Hsin Ming, which we've done the last two times I've done the talk. If you haven't been here for those two, it's a little bit different. You are going to be doing more talking than me, hopefully. The Hsin Hsin Ming is an ancient document that was done by the third patriarch, Hsin Hsin. And it claims, and I think this is true, that it is the essence of Zen. So it's a pretty important document, a very important document. And it's just a little poem of 25 stanzas. I was just talking with Kent before we started. I can't remember what he said, but the last time that Kent shared, and we're going to be sharing, we'll take one stanza at a time. We'll meditate for a couple minutes and then we'll have a discussion. And I was mentioning to Kent that the last time he shared about one of the stanzas, one of the reflections, I don't remember which one, but I remember distinctly thinking, wow, I never thought of that. And that's the power of this. I've been sitting with this for 8 years and there's still things to learn. And there might be some misunderstanding or some understanding. So please, if you have a thought, please share it with us. So we're going to do the first one, and Kent will put it up on the screen. We'll take a couple of minutes. You'll be prompted by the bell. I'll start it as soon as it's up, and I'll end it in about 2 minutes, and then we will open it up. You guys unmic, and we will discuss this. Changes that seem to occur in the empty world, we make real only because of our ignorance. Okay, Sangha, please unmute yourself and share your thoughts about changes that seem to occur in the empty world we make real only because of our ignorance. So, what are some thoughts?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is our attachment to those changes, whether it be a change for the better or a change for the worse. Just even in using language like that, we seem to put some kind of preference on it, and that somehow makes it real. And they talk about the empty world, and the empty world is where our ignorance plays on that attachment when those changes are empty. Words.
Thank you, Z.
I thought a similar thing about, as Z said, about that attachment, right? Because like change in the moment is as the thing is supposed to be. If we're disappointed or if we're happy, maybe we're attached to the way things were or a potential outcome for the future instead of just being with what it is in its suchness, you know? So that that ignorance of having a preference for something we think would be good or we think is bad. And this is where I think we show our ignorance.
Great, thank you. I think that was Jeremy. We have this up and we want to keep it up, but we don't see each other. So if you would just say this is Jeremy or this is Z or what, or your Dharma names, whatever, just let us know who's speaking, please. And that was Jeremy, right?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Good morning, Sangha. This is Ashton. Yeah, it seems like the true nature of things is constant change and nothing's really fixed or permanent. It's constantly fluid. And our wrong view is our ignorance of seeing things as fixed or permanent or unchanging. That's what came to mind for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashton.
This is Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
And the first thing that I zeroed in on when I'm looking at the text is the words seem to. And then the second was empty world. So I think I overanalyzed it, but then the other thing that occurred to me right away is everything is created by mind alone. So maybe it means things that we think are happening. I'm not sure on the empty world part of it, but I think what Ash said about overthinking, overanalyzing instead of just going with the flow. I'm not sure.
No. Good thoughts. Thank you. Anybody else thoughts on the empty world or seem to?
Hi,
Good morning, Sangha. Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that seem to, this is Kaji Su, by the way, that it's not actually happening. It just seems to be happening. And because of our ignorance, we make that real. And we just have to watch the illusory form and all around us and just kind of really pay attention to what's going on and not try to put on our opinions of things and put in our ignorance that's what I get out of this text.
Thank you.
Hi, this is James.
James?
Yeah, the seem to is, I like how Shane said it, the illusory, to me, it'd be like the illusory perception that we have, that what we feel and what we see is real, which is the ignorance that only our perception is the only real one, real.
Okay, thank you. Some good thoughts there, Sangha. Thank you. Kent, why don't we go to the next one? Do not seek for the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. Okay, Sangha, do not seek for the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. Thoughts on that?
And for me, the first thing that came up, this is Maya, was thinking about last time we went over the Hsin Hsin Ming, and there was a section I think that touched on this as well, as far as like the more we like talk and think, then the further we get from the truth, and how like the more we're grasping at and seeking and like searching for it, or like trying to hold on to it as like this thing that we can kind of claim, then the further we get from it. And that the main thing is just to kind of release the attachments and like the things that we put onto the truth, so that it can kind of reveal itself in like this kind of effortless way, or like more empty way.
Thanks, Maya.
This is Z. Maya, I appreciated that viewpoint of, it's almost like the way I was interpreting it, only then taking it just a little bit further and looking at the truth of being, that to stop applying the self to to whatever it is that we have our opinions or our preferences about. Because as soon as we apply that self is what creates those opinions and those preferences. So the truth is right there in not allowing that self to have that control. Having no preference allows us to be present with that truth.
Yeah. Thanks, Z.
This is Ellen.
Yeah.
When I read this, I went in the absolute opposite direction. And I think it took me back to my working days, trying to help create a job description for a particular role and making decisions on how that was going to happen. So I tried to garner as many opinions as possible to help me find the right way, the truth, so to speak, to make this application. So I have a lot of dusting in my brain to go through because that's exactly where I went.
So, yeah, thank you. This is Jeremy. So on the last verse we were talking about, I can't remember the name of the last person to share with us, but they said something that that got me thinking on this, that when we have an opinion or think we know something, that sets us apart as an individual I, right? Like, this is my thought. And so it ignores the fact that there is a greater connection and interdependence of all of us. And so I was sort of reflecting on how anytime we are seeking a truth or cherishing an opinion, that somehow sets our thoughts and our opinions above perhaps the thoughts and opinions of those around us, creating a separate identity. That's what I was reflecting on. That. Similar to what Ellen was saying, I think, more input sometimes brings us more truth as opposed just to our own understanding.
Thanks, Jeremy.
This is Gaji Su again. Yeah, my interpretation of this verse has changed over the years from listening. Like, I feel like every time I hear this, something a little clicks. But I think the word cherish is important here, because it's not saying you can't have opinions, but you don't want to be attached. You don't want to be holding on to those opinions, because that will muddle the truth, and it'll muddle your perception of what's going on out there. Because if you're stuck on those views, stuck on those opinions, it gets you far away from the truth. And it says, do not seek for the truth, because even that act of seeking, it can be a deterrence from just being in the now, being in the moment, breathing. So it just says, work on ceasing to cherish opinions, and then it'll just come naturally.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Ellen, when you were talking about assembling a group of opinions and then coming up with with what you wanted, I forget exactly what you were doing, but that cherish, if you cherish opinions, then you're not going to hear other opinions. You're not going to be able to take many different truths and find your own. Yeah, thanks, Shane. Shane, I keep forgetting your Dharma name, but yeah, cherish is a big word right there.
This is Ellen, quickly to thank Shane for zeroing in on that word, because that flipped the whole thing for me. So thanks, Shane.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, this is Ashton. This is all so good. Everything everyone is saying is like, oh, aha. I don't know if I had much more to add, but the first thing that came to mind is, yeah, when we let go of our opinion and preference, the truth is all that remains, that no need to search for it. You know, it's effortless. Like I think like Maya was saying, wow, that really struck me. I was reflecting this morning, holding real tightly onto an opinion or a preference. My son had an accident, you know, like a toilet accident. And I had this preference around it, you know, it being one way versus another. And then kind of reflecting on that, it's like, wow, you know, I could have approached that moment so much differently if I wasn't holding so tightly onto this preference of how it transpired. So thank you all.
Thank you, Ashton. Well, some very good thoughts here. Let's continue. Kent, bring up the next one, please. Do not remain in a dualistic state. Avoid such easy habits carefully. If you attach even to a trace of this and that, of right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. Although all dualities arise from the one, do not be attached even to ideas of this one. Do not remain in a dualistic state. Avoid such easy habits carefully. If you attach even to a trace of this and that, of right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. Although all dualities arise from the one, do not be attached even to ideas of this one. What are some thoughts?
This one is a big one. So I'll try to keep my time short. And this is Su, or Z. The first thing that came to mind was, do not remain in a dualistic state is a reminder of being present. So trying not to live or let the mind live in the future or the past where it can't function in a complete sense of being able to watch the habits and watch the mind and right consciousness and being able to have that, follow that eightfold path. And that's where the mind essence will be lost in confusion comes for me. You know, when I get caught up in thinking about something that happened in the past or getting anxious about something that's happening in the future, that's when I'm not staying present and I'm not looking at the situation for where it is in this moment, which, you know, it's all in my head. And then the big one I feel is at the end. Although all dualities arise from the one, do not be attached even to the ideas of this one. And I know I'm going to have to think on that for a while, but the first thing that comes to mind is, even though we're presented with this middle way, and this way of thinking and following, you know, don't be so attached to it that you forget to live it. So that's what came to mind for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Yong.
Well, this is Gaji Su Shane. Thank you, Ike Su. That last part, that's what I felt the same. Being attached to the one, having that is, we have to watch out for that, because it's kind of easy to do. We want to almost put all of our effort, all of our energy into the path, which is a good thing. But if we kind of lose sight of our daily activities, of taking care of ourselves and the people around us, I think we can just lose sight of what the path actually, what the one actually is, if we try to attach to the one path, or to the essence, source, or whatever you want to call the one. And then going back into the dualistic state in the beginning, and it says avoid such easy habit, because it's so easy to get into those habits. We have to really watch that, because it's like we were born of duality, and trying to get back to the essence of what we're trying to do is try not to remain there, and then to attach to even a trace like that. There's that word attachment again. Just worrying about not getting so ingrained in everything, and then the mind will be lost in confusion. So yeah, just going all over the place. But this one is a little heavy, but I think with working on it and bringing ourselves to the moment, and really just not getting caught in one view, and not being attached even to the one, I think is very important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Maya. I think for me, I was just thinking a lot about how we make distinctions as a way to understand our experience, and like we categorize things, and like frequently rely on duality to do that, just to make things like easier to comprehend, and how that like obscures the true nature of things and is all comes from our opinions and the self. It doesn't actually, and that it just causes, especially with things like right or wrong, like we can really cling tightly to what we believe is either right or wrong. And there was something else, but it's gone now. So
Happens to me all the time, Maya. Thanks.
This is Ellen. First of all, thanks for Maya, Jane, and Z who popped in, because I was totally confused with this whole passage, and it kind of made my brain hurt. But now listening to you guys and then looking at the words again really, really helped. And Maya, what you just said about the right or wrong, I mean, that's how we all grow up, is learning right from wrong. So forcing yourself to kind of get back on not attaching, like Shane says, there's that word again, so tightly to one thing that you can't see the other. So, and then I was really confused about the word one being capitalized. So now that's cleared up. So thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ellen.
Hi, this is Ashton. Yeah, I probably focused the most on the last sentence, and as soon as we think or project a mental image of this one, as soon as we label it and construct a mental image of what this one is, it's already distorted, and my view and perception of it is different than someone else's. So it seems like only our direct experience, like right now listening to one another and sitting, and only our direct experience without these opinions is the true nature of things. And like this moment and combination of our five senses is our reality without thoughts. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Thank you.
Yes, there is. Thanks, Ashton. Yeah, that word ideas is a big word in this whole thing. Attached to our ideas. And what the Buddha said, that's all there is direct experience. Check it out. What is your experience? And we can go off into, yeah, the five skandhas and how we create. But yeah, ideas of this one. Direct experience. Mm-hmm. Instead of getting caught up in our mental confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, this is Kent. I also sort of focused on that last sentence. I think, the one for me refers to the oneness of all things, or the emptiness, interconnectedness of all things. And the dualities are what we create in our minds to make sense of it every day. But through practice, you can kind of get a glimpse of what that one means or what it is. But as soon as you, at least in my experience, as soon as you sort of attach and say, wow, that's cool kind of thing, it's gone immediately. And so I think that's the challenge, is to experience that without somehow grabbing onto it.
Yes. Thanks, Ken.
Hi, this is James. Give it a shot. What Ellen said kind of brought up some things for me as far as the dualistic state and avoiding such easy habits carefully. That makes me think of when I'm kind of going through my day, a lot of things or a lot of thoughts and perceptions and emotions can go back to like a default mode or an autopilot where I'm so used to it. And I think that's because of the conditioning and the learning that, I had, whether it's, through growing up, my environment, and just kind of through my travels without having or living in ignorance. So what I think about, it's not so much like learning new things. It's a lot of like, for me, it's unlearning and that unconditioning to get back to a state of kind of gradually and constantly shedding the ego. And then when, with the dualities arise from the one, do not be attached even to ideas of the one. That's a really good one. I really like what Ken said on that. So I really don't have much more to add. But the avoid easy habits carefully, that one really related, because I think it's so easy to kind of attach to those old pathways. Thank you.
Thanks. So anybody that hasn't shared yet, remember, don't attach to right and wrong. So don't think your thoughts are right or wrong. Just share what your thoughts are. Everybody has an understanding.
I'm chasing a toddler around, so I've been on mute. But I think this was the one that spoke to me the most, and I apologize if this has already been said, because again, I'm chasing a toddler around my house. But I saw when it says, you know, do not even be attached to the idea of the one, is because in my mind, because if you're trying to avoid right and wrong, then you can sort of attach rightness to the idea of the one. And so then that sort of creates this duality, even though you're trying to avoid it. So that's what spoke to me the most about this one.
Thank you. Yeah.
And my name is AJ. Sorry.
AJ. Nobody had quite said it that way. Thank you, AJ. Okay, why don't we try one more? Let's see. Yeah, well, try one more and then we will call it a day. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, there is no objection to anything in the world. And when there is no objection to anything, things cease to be in the old way. When no discriminating attachment arises, the old mind ceases to exist. Let go of things as separate existences, and mind too vanishes. Likewise, when the thinking subject vanishes, so too do objects created by mind. Okay, this is a big one. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, there is no objection to anything in the world. And when there is no objection to anything, things cease to be in the old way. When no discriminating attachment arises, the old mind ceases to exist. Let go of things as separate existences, and mind too vanishes. Likewise, when the thinking subject vanishes, so too do the objects created by mind. Sarah, share some thoughts.
This is Ellen. This was the longest one, and the first thing I thought of was, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to wade through all this. Then I simply condensed it down to the basis of everything seems to be, don't be attached, let it go, let it go, let it go. On the other hand, it's the hardest thing to do.
Thanks, Ellen. You got it. That's the challenge.
This is Z, Igesu. There were a lot of things that came to mind, and I had to kind of let my thoughts go in a direction, whatever direction kind of took. And the first path I started going down to is that it's giving this whole piece here, this gives a perspective to it kind of gives birth to a new perspective, or rather than birth, more that it's coming back to a perspective that's always been there. And then I was kind of thinking about that, like we find these aha moments almost like we've discovered something, but when we discover something, we're acknowledging an attachment to it. We're acknowledging a self, because there has to be a self in order for a discovery to be made. But it's already been there this whole time, so it's not something new. But when we can let go or embrace that true way because it's always been there, it's part of recognizing that Buddha that is within all of us. So that's being able to let go of things as separate existences and mind too vanishes. That's kind of what came to me from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Z. This is Shane Gaji Su again. Want to try to hit on all the points. It's a lot. There's a lot there. But I see when the mind exists in an undisturbed way, it's like you're using the skillful means. There's nothing to object to, because all the craziness of the world, you can still be in the marketplace. You can, after enlightenment, there's the laundry. You still have to do the laundry. You still have to do everything. But when it's undisturbed, it's a skillful, the skillful means. 1 second, they're doing an Easter egg hunt here. And then things cease to be in the old way, like the dualistic way, the way that we kind of came into the world. And then when no discriminating attachment, there's that word again, attachment arises, the old mind ceases to exist, it goes away. And the very last line, when the subject vanishes, so too the objects of the mind, I just think of emptiness, of how everything is empty, and that just kind of brings it all back to the essence of the practice. So thank you.
Thanks, Shane. That word emptiness, the emptiness doesn't mean nothing. It means much more everything. Everything is connected. Everything doesn't have its own separate, distinct existence, and everything has Buddha nature. So that's an important one. Yeah. And that old mind, that mind full of ignorance. A lot of thoughts there. So some other thoughts before we close. Even a misunderstanding is fine. If there's any questions or anything on this one.
Yeah, sure. I'll say something. Why not? I like this part. There's no objection to anything in the world. When there's no objection to anything, things cease to be in the old way. I also see objection maybe as like fighting or resisting, or I don't know if I'm on point there or not. But I just think about like, I'm in recovery, so I just know a lot of times, like in the big book, it says, we have ceased fighting anyone or anything we have to, or something along those lines. Because that was a lot of time that was like the old way of thinking, is arguing wrong. I don't know how fast things.
Thanks, James. Yeah. I don't think it's saying that we shouldn't resist, but there's the fighting, that's a good word, the fighting in turmoil. If we're undisturbed, our mind in the way, does that mean that we don't do anything about what we see as injustice? And I think that's totally no. We do object to those kinds of things, but when we're in the way, we don't attach all of our thoughts and all of our judgments onto that. We just see that is something that is injustice, and I am going to do everything I can to bring that. But we don't tell all the stories about I hate this group or I hate that group, I hate this politician, I hate that politician. We stop all that. We stop all that silliness and just say, here's what I perceive as wrong, and I must do something about it. Because that, in a sense, people think of karma as action, but that's absolutely true. But there's also inaction. There's karma. If you see something wrong and you don't do anything about it, there's karma attached to that. So, yeah, those are the thoughts. Well, it's been a good discussion, folks. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you did too. We will close with the three gathas, and then please stick around. We'll have any announcements after we stop the recording. And we will stop the recording after we do the three gathas. For all evil action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for it all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddha's teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of the Buddha, I vow to attain. Thanks, folks.